What's happening, guys, and welcome back to the channel, where for today's video we're going to be checking out some of the final releases for the Transformers Rise of the Beasts mainline. And what an incredible lineup of figures. I definitely think this has been by far the best movie line that we've seen since the Transformers Dark of the Moon film, and if we are to see the return of the live action movies in the future, I hope that it is as big and as vast as we've seen from this year. But as we check out the smallest of the remaining figures I have left to review, here we have the Beast Battlemaster Optimus Primal. Now, I would have loved to have had the Battlemaster Air Razor to pair with this figure, but unfortunately I think as far as a UK release goes, she's been pretty much cancelled. I cannot find her anywhere, I cannot even track her down overseas. It's mental. So here we have Primal, who I think so far is the best out of the Battlemaster bunch, and I think out of all of the gimmicky figures they made for this mainline, the Battlemasters were by far the best subline they created, because not only were the beast modes for the most part pretty accurate and detailed, but the weapon modes were all pretty awesome, and I liked how you could pair them with some of the Deluxe, Voyagers and Leaders. It really is just a shame that we never saw more of these. How amazing would have it been to have had an Optimus Prime which could have transformed into his arm cannon, and the same also goes for Bumblebee. But as we check out Primal's beast mode, surprisingly very nicely detailed, especially the head sculpt. I love the chest design, and the proportions for the most part are decent. He surprisingly has 5 points of articulation, 2 ball joints in the back of the legs, 2 in the shoulders, and then 1 smack bang and center for the head sculpt. But with all that being said, let's maximize Optimus Primal into his weapon mode. And bang! Here we have Optimus Primal fully maximised into his blaster form, and much like we saw from Rhinox, a pretty decent looking weapon, and to be fair, I think looks pretty awesome paired alongside the Studio Series Optimus Primal. So as we check out the front part of the barrel, this looks pretty sick, as so does the details here along the side. Without a doubt, the best Beast Battlemaster that has so far been released, but again, it makes zero sense that this figure has been released in the final wave of Rise of the Beast figures and not the first wave, because Optimus Primal was undeniably one of the biggest standout characters. It is crazy that he was not featured in the first wave alongside Cheetor and Rhinox, but anyway, definitely a pretty cool looking figure. And talking of figures which definitely should have been released in the first wave, here we have the Battle Changers Scourge. Now, how Rhinox was released before this figure, I will never understand, as Scourge was without a doubt the best live action movie villain that we've had since lockdown, and Rhinox was barely in the movie, so why he has seen a release in the last wave of Rise of the Beast figures is just crazy. And much like Optimus Primal, I really do think this is the best out of the bunch. Now, he is very simplistic in terms of the way he's been engineered. The way I look at these battle changers is they're basically simplified versions of core class figures, as the details are quite on point. I mean, check out the Terracon logo that we have up front. I'm not quite sure as to why he's been coloured in this greenish gold. I imagine if we ever had seen a Voyager mainline Scourge, that it would have looked quite similar to this figure in terms of design and paint. But as we spin it around here to the back, I find it funny that the arm placement is pretty much identical to the significantly more expensive Studio Series Leader class. And one thing which is a massive win with this Scourge is that unlike Optimus Prime, every single wheel is clipped on, meaning that he has no problemos in rolling out into battle. So all in all, it's actually a pretty fun, decent looking figure. Now let's terrorize him into his robot mode. And bang! Here we have Battle Changer Scourge fully terrorized into his robot mode, and it's quite a cool looking figure. As I said previously, these are very basic in terms of their design, but detail wise I really think are up to par with what we've come to expect from the core class. So as we check out the head sculpt, surprisingly very nicely painted and detailed. The same can be pretty much said for every single part about the robot mode, and surprisingly it is very similar in design again to the Studio Series Leader class. So I am wondering if both the mainline and the Studio Series figures were based on the same concept, because as we've seen from some of the other mainline vs Studio Series figures, there has been quite a contrast in terms of accuracy. So maybe Scourge from the offset always had a very similar design, but check out the sculpt work that we have here for the gnarly looking fingers, and the whole gimmick about these battle changes is they come with built-in weaponry, and Scourge's is his blade that we see him use to take out some of the Maximals and the Autobots with in the movie, so that's pretty sick. We also get the electromagnetic claw that he fries Bumblebee with in the movie, and much like the Battlemaster Optimus Primal, the figure only has about 5 points of articulation, so there are 2 in the hips, 2 in the shoulders, and then finally a tiny waist swivel. Would have been amazing had these been as articulated as some of the Weaponizer 2-packs. I would have loved to have seen some ball-jointed shoulders and ball-jointed knees, but overall, definitely quite a fun-looking Scourge, and is the closest that I think we're ever going to get to an actual mainline Scourge. And saving for what I believe to be the best out of the bunch, here we have the Weaponizer Scorponok. Now, the main reason why I'm checking this guy out is because we are set to see a Studio Series release for this character in the very next wave. So it's going to be interesting to compare the Weaponizer alongside what undoubtedly will be the superior version out of the two, as I think for a Weaponizer, this is actually a pretty decent looking Scorpion mode. I mean, check out the details that we have here for the neck, very reminiscent to the 2007 Scorponok. It was a shame that there was no connection in the movie between that Scorponok and the Rise of the Beast Scorponoks, as these were pretty much Terracons in the film. These were sent in as reinforcements by Unicron to help aid Scourge, and I don't believe they were ever called Predacons, so I'm not quite sure if in the future they do decide to introduce the Predacons into the mix, how exactly that's going to play out, but this figure does look pretty decent. I really like the green details that we have up top, especially here for the Sting, but it is a very basic figure, much like Scourge where I found him to be a basic core class. I really find that these Weaponizers are basic deluxe classes. Now let's terrorize him into his robot mode. And bang! Here we have Scorponok fully transformed into his robot mode. Now, these guys never actually transformed in the movie, which is why I am so excited to see as to what they're going to cook up for that Studio Series version. But in terms of a robot mode, it's definitely not bad looking as we check out the details. The face sculpt is surprisingly super detailed. I mean, check out the kind of grindle detail that we have smack bang at center. I'm not quite sure why there appears to be a bit of battle damage to the right hand side, but it's quite cool, as so is the details here for the chest. I do quite like the claws with the pincers on the tips. The Scorpion legs are a little annoying. Now, there is a way to kind of hinge these here to the back, and I believe they're only held on via clips, so if they bothered you that much, you could completely remove these, although I do believe these are accurate to the concept art that was released for this character. But all in all, definitely not a terrible looking figure. He's quite hollow, but then again, he's a gimmick based figure and he is quite cheap to pick up. But this is a Weaponizer and also a 2-pack, so let's check out some of his accessories. The first of which is his tail, which in this form I guess kind of acts as a sword. It's not bad looking, pretty decently detailed, especially here for the tip. But his Battlemaster companion is actually pretty awesome. Now, this is very similar to Optimus Primal. It has a beast mode and then can also transform into a weapon. Now, this guy I believe is called Sandspear. As I said previously, considering there were thousands of Scorponoks in the movie, I really don't mind having another one to add to the collection, as they do make for some pretty cool army builders. But the detail for this is actually surprisingly really decent. We even get this piece here up the top, which can flip to reveal a sting/dagger. So that's pretty awesome in terms of how he transforms. Very basic. You basically take the pincers, arch these here backwards, extend the blade here outwards, flip here to the underside to reveal a post, and that is him fully transformed into his weaponized mode. I think the weakest out of all of the Beast Battle Masters in terms of an actual weapon, but the Beast mode is actually pretty sick looking. Now, as we check out a few comparisons for all three figures, first up here we have the Beast Battle Master Optimus Primal paired alongside both Cheetor and Rhinox. Here we have Battle Changer Scourge alongside Optimus Prime. Here is how he sizes up alongside two core class figures. So despite him not being as articulated and as well engineered as these two, I still think in terms of detail, he's definitely quite up there. And then finally for Scorponok, because at the moment he's a pretty decent placeholder for a deluxe class, here he is alongside a few Studio Series figures. So we have RC and Noah, Bumblebee and Air Razor, and then finally Leader Class Optimus Primal and Voyager Class Optimus Prime. And so, wrapping up on this triple review for some of the few remaining Transformers Rise of the Beast movie line figures. I think these three are really fun. They're definitely some of the best entries to grace that Rise of the Beast movie line, and now the movie hype is kind of dying down, chances are you may be able to find some of these on a severe discount. I do know that in the States, the Weaponizer Scorponok is quite readily available, and seeing as there were thousands of him in the movie, you could army build, and to be fair, I think the Scorpion mode is pretty decent. The Battlemaster Optimus Primal, I think, is one of the best that they released for that subline. As I said, I don't own the Air Razor, but he's definitely going to take some beating, as I think his beast mode is awesome. And in terms of the Battle Changer Scourge, without a doubt, one of the funnest, one of the most detailed movie line gimmick figures that I've so far checked out. I think his truck mode, for the most part, is really sick looking, very simplistic transformation, yet the robot mode I think is pretty accurate. When you compare it alongside the Studio Series version, you can definitely see that they were based on the same concept art, and to be fair, despite the lack of articulation, it's all round just a pretty decent looking figure. So all in all, definitely three of the better Rise of the Beast gimmicky figures I've reviewed, and roll on to the next movie. I've had an absolute blast checking out some of these mainline figures, and I'm super excited to see as to what they've got cooked up for us next time. I'd love to get your thoughts on these three down in the comment section below, out of all of the Rise of the Beast movie line figures, which are the ones you guys have enjoyed the most. And until my next review, I thank you all so much for watching. Transform and roll out!